All right. So I have decided that for my blogs, I am going to start doing videos to accompany it. Audio videos, more or less. So, yeah, from now on, I think I'm going to be doing a post hopefully once a week, and hopefully a video will accompany it. Sometimes it might be just a video or just typing, reading posts, but yeah, so this week is going to be creationism in science, belief versus theory. What got me on this was this week in my sociology class, we started our anthropology section of our class. And so my professor said that we were not going to be having creationism in this one. She said it's completely fine if you believe that, but we're not going to be using that because it is a belief and not a theory. And that is why they use evolution. She went through all that stuff, and she made a list of 5 reasons why. And she said that a theory must be simple, meaning it can't be complex to describe or study. It's got to be a simple process of testing, implying the scientific method, and it has to be simple to convey the answer or the theory, the idea behind it. Excuse me. And she said because beliefs don't do that, according to our textbooks and according to the professor, beliefs are not simple in that way, that they are complex. Then, since creationism is based off of a belief, Christianity, it cannot be used for that reason. Another reason is it must be testable. A theory is testable. You can perform experimentation, observation. You can do various research to test whether or not it's true, and it has to be supported with some sort of data. It can't be proven. That's a common theme in science, is nothing can be proven, but it can be supported. And apparently creationism and Christianity cannot be supported with any data. So that's what makes that not testable. Number 3, the third point that she mentioned was it has to yield new information. New knowledge must be consistently, continually gained through the testing of whatever theory it is. And obviously this is going to be we're talking about creationism, so we're going to use evolution a lot as the counter example, because that's also what we used in my sociology class. So it always has to have new information, either through the failure of tests or through the success of tests. Boundable. This is interesting. It has the whole thing with boundable is it has to be, for it to be a good theory, it has to be tied to a particular topic or a theme of topics. So relatable topics that are that kind of fit together. For instance, the biggest one for evolution is a historical science, like natural history. That's a big thing for that. And finally, correctable. If it's wrong, it has to have room to be corrected, for us to make it right. Say, okay, so this theory is wrong, so I'm going to adjust the hypothesis, adjust the theory to match the data I have found through this new information, through these testing. So those are the 5 things: simple, testable, yields information, boundable, and correctable. So the claim is that beliefs cannot be simple, testable, etc. So neither can creation, which is based on belief. And I think that's a little narrow-minded. Now, I am a Christian, and I am a very I don't want to say good Christian, but I am very much a Christian. There's no like, oh, I just go to church on Sunday. I'm a very active Christian. I wasn't always like that, but I am now, so that's what counts. But so then, hence I lean towards creationism much more than evolution. I think we evolve, but we've been evolving backwards, not forwards. So anyway, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how creation fits those 5 categories and why it should not be discounted in use in sciences. All right, so for the first one, regarding it being simple, most theories are not simple, least of all evolution. Think about going to your science classes in high school or college. When was the last time that you went to a science class and you just picked it up right there? You're just like, oh, this is super easy, I get this. This makes sense. This inherently makes sense. It's simple. That hardly ever happens. There are people who have more scientific minds. There are people who just understand that stuff better, but it's not inherently simple. You have to really dig into it in order to actually understand what's going on. Evolution is one of the least simple theories. Evolution is based on the belief that the Earth has slowly changed due to natural phenomena, and even natural phenomena isn't actually true, but the slow, mundane phenomena into what it is today. That it started slowly, it slowly worked. This is called uniformitarianism. This is the geological aspect, not necessarily the natural history aspect. Evolution cannot function unless it has a ridiculous amount of time. Millions, it requires, right here, requires the Earth to be millions or billions of years old. Take, for instance, right here. This is a common graphic for the timeline of evolution. And you can see here, this graphic, particular one, says it starts at 1 billion years ago. There are some that speculate in the tens of billions. Most commonly nowadays, if I remember correctly, it's 5 billion years ago. I actually study evolution on top of creationism because you have to look at both viewpoints. And evolution, they say the Earth started 4 to 5 billion years ago. And that is a very long time. And where creationism, on the other hand, there isn't a whole lot of inherent requirements for it to be true. The main requirement of creationism is it simply requires there to be someone greater than ourselves. One being who is supernatural, who created the universe at some point in time. Now, there are many different beliefs of types of creationism. Some believe that it is really old, and some believe that it's not very old. But the core belief of creationism is that God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, there are other ways for you to test creationism, which goes into the next section here. Theories are testable, but to say that creationism isn't is an uneducated statement. Very uneducated. Evolution uses 2 main ways of testing. They do radiometric dating, which, by the way, it's sort of like carbon dating. They don't only test carbon, but that's the most common. It tests the gradual dissipation or breakdown of the molecules of whatever they're testing, or the rock around it. Most commonly the carbon. Carbon slowly turns into argon. It goes based off of the half-life, how long it takes for half of the carbon to break down. And carbon breaks down to argon. Well, this is almost accurate. It's not very accurate or precise. When dating stuff that is younger than 2,000 years. Okay, so once you pass 2,000 years, radiometric dating becomes very, very inaccurate, to the point of you're not even hitting the target, you're hitting the woods a mile behind the target. Okay, that's where they're getting these billions of years from. Okay, that a lot of times it's simply because they're trying to test something that's over 2,000 years old, and so it's giving them these outrageous numbers. They also use the process of comparing Earth strata. Now, another example of this, which I don't have up right now, but we can show you one example of these things are trilobites. They take these certain creatures, I know I spelled that wrong. Images. So here's a couple examples of these. They're almost like milestone fossils, if you will. There's these things where there was enough of them that they are transitional. They kind of set the boundary of what era it's in. So like for trilobites, that would be down in this area over here. Okay, that would be the formation of these, exoskeleton sea creatures, formation of, it takes millions of years to form all these sea things, and that's when the Earth was mostly water, and the only breathable oxygen was in the water at this point, according to evolution and uniformitarianism. And the trilobite is one such thing. They found a lot of them in a layer of rock, and they're like, okay, well, according to radiometric dating, this is like 1 billion years old. This rock is 1 billion years old. And so this era is 1 billion years old. This trilobite is 1 billion years old. And the stuff around it is very close to that billion-year mark. Another example is Archaeopteryx. They use that. It's at that point where lizards are becoming birds and vice versa. It's very confusing because you can never tell like which one is turning into what. And so because it has like that tail, they think, oh, it's probably lizard. And so that date where they measured that rock at is like set in stone. This is that transition between eras. Third example of this is coelacanth. Now, coelacanth, that's a current picture of a coelacanth. They still exist. But millions and millions of years ago, right around right here, where fish started to crawl on land according to evolution, they're like, that's when the coelacanth existed. And then once lizards came onto the ground, they're like, okay, then that's where it went extinct, right there. A few million, millions and millions of years ago, hundreds of millions of years ago. That is wrong. Okay, they're testing this, but they're finding that it's wrong. Okay, and it's very tautological because you're using strata to measure strata. The layers of rock. Creationism, on the other hand, is also testable, and it's much better. It's much simpler, more easily tested. It uses the Bible. Okay, and I know people are saying, oh, it uses the Bible. Well, there you go. It's using that belief again. And I'm saying, it does not use Christianity necessarily. It uses the Bible. And the Bible, whether you believe in it as a Christian or not, is legitimately recognized by most historians to be one of the most historic, if not the most historically accurate pieces of literature in the world. Okay? Historians constantly reference the Bible in comparing the Bible to other documents. They compare other historical documents to the Bible, writings from Plato and Aristotle, to see how old the writings are, to see how accurate the writings are, because the Bible has been proven both with other literature, its own self. There's very little actual confliction within its own text. It does not conflict with itself. The artifacts generally, like when dated correctly, one of the best ways to do this is using the rings in trees. So if you have fossilized trees, you judge the rings. That tells you how old the tree is. It's very accurate. And see, creationism can use that, other historical documents, other artifacts, genealogies, things like that, and that shows you the Earth's age and shows you its origin. You cannot disprove that a God created that. Even evolution that claims that there was this mass of energy and this mass of matter that was just this really tiny condensed mass, and then it exploded. Where did it come from? Somebody had to place it there. So even if you don't believe in the short-term creationism, where Earth is only about 6,000 some years old, if you believe it's millions and billions of years old, even then, where did that matter come from in the first place? So creationism, evolution even has to have creationism in it for you to fully explain it. It's amazing, really. And yet we claim that it is not testable, that we can't use it because it's based on a belief. Another requirement for a theory is that it yields new information all the time. Information that when you test it and it turns out wrong, you still got that affirmation or conflict saying, okay, so I was wrong, or okay, I was right as far as I know. Here's some more information I gleaned to help me make a better hypothesis. Creation yields new information like that all the time. That's why there are certain creationists who believe the Earth is really old or that the Earth is really young, because they're constantly learning new material to help sway them to the age of the Earth. Help them refine and narrow the answer down, more specific answers. They're constantly finding that information, more and more artifacts every year. Better systems for analyzing documents. Always, always, always getting new information. Evolution is yielding new information, but as many times as not, it is rejecting it as a fundamental theory and actually supports creationism and the Bible. Creation, very seldom, that the whole basis is that things were created, not always were and slowly turned into what they are now, but that they were created by one being. Very seldom. In fact, I myself have no knowledge of any time where creation has been proven wrong. The fundamental base of it has been proven wrong by anything out there. Very seldom has that ever happened. But with evolution, they constantly finding things like the coelacanth, where they thought it was millions and millions of years old, and they thought it was that transition fossil, but it's still here today. The chances of a single species living for over 100 million years is very, very slim, even by the standards of an evolutionist. Very slim, very small. Whereas this has yet to be disproven by science. People claim they have, but when you analyze their data, it always turns out that they're wrong. So this kind of leads into whether or not a theory can be correctable. Technically speaking, creationism can be used in tandem with both uniformitarianism and old Earth and catastrophism, which bases the theory that Earth is young due to the fact that there was things like the Great Flood and major ice ages, which it's interesting because even evolution uses their catastrophist events sort of like climate change and meteors hitting the Earth and pieces of rubble and asteroids colliding to create the mass of the moon and the Earth. They use catastrophism even there, but they say that it takes a really long time to happen, which is a little bit contradictory, which shows you it's not very accurate. Evolution, though, if any information proves uniformitarianism wrong, much like this right here, then it ceases to be testable. I mean, you can't, because evolution requires there to be an enormous amount of time, okay? And if anything shows that that amount of time that they have reached is any less, it becomes increasingly harder to find support for evolution. And thus, at a certain point, it will cease to be even a theory. The theory itself will be completely wrong. And the theory of evolution, the theory that we came from these few chemicals that bonded to create life, billions of years ago, if any of that is proven wrong, then it ceases to be a theory and is not able to be corrected, because there is nothing to correct. It's just wrong. This just lets you know how tautological evolution really is. Evolution bases on itself being right to be right, which is circular reasoning. It's tautological. Whereas, the only thing that you would have to disprove for creationism is that a God exists and that somebody put it there, but we have yet to disprove that. Okay? And so, if you say that, if you prove that the earth is old, okay, then creationism still works, because you still have not disproven the fact that God created it. If creation itself is young, then you are still finding support for it, and it still works in tandem with that. So, very much so, creationism is exceedingly more correctable than evolution. Alright, so last point is the boundable part. It must be applied to only one topic or a few related topics. This one is the easiest to explain. Both creationism and evolution cover the same thing. They both cover natural history and the origins of life. Case closed, boom. It works. It is boundable. And creationism, remember, creationism is not Christianity. Christianity is not boundable. The Bible is itself, the Word of God, is not boundable. But creationism is a theory. It is a man-made theory that is based on biblical truths. So, though it is based on a belief, it is still a theory. And see, people get that mixed up. It is testable. It is a simple theory, as simple as any theory gets. In reality, none are that simple. It is boundable, and it is correctable. By far, creationism, there is no excuse not to have it. In fact, we should have it in science, because we should always be showing the opposite point of view. We should always be showing that stuff. So that is pretty much it for this one. Saying that it can't be used to study a topic like sociology is wrong, as we can see that. I've shown you data, things like that. Bottom line is, okay, creationism can be used. That's pretty much it. So next time, I think I'm probably going to be doing one on the psychological signs of attraction. That's probably what next week's going to be, if I can. If I have time to get around to doing it. I've been having busy schedules, and this weekend I'm going to a Renaissance festival and all that other stuff. This was a pretty boring, dry topic, but it's very scientific, so most people find scientific stuff like this much more interesting. But next week, we're going to be applying the psychological signs of attraction to a very popular film series by DreamWorks, and it's going to be much more interesting, I guarantee you. And it's going to be very impersonal, and I think everybody who looks at this blog will love it. So that's all for now. Make sure you stay intelligent, and make sure you argue and not fight when you have disagreements with people. That's all.